right? Only loss was to the Eagles on Monday Night Football. Look, are they the most underrated team? I say yes. Heck yes. Philip, educate me on these Vikings. Why aren't they getting the respect? Are they the most underrated team in the league?
I think the reason why the Vikings aren't getting the respect is because of the fact, and I think this is a big deal to some people, is the fact that Kirk Cousins has a not so great record prime time. And none of these players have necessarily proven themselves yet. Like, listen, I get they have Dalvin Cook. I get they have Justin Jefferson. I get that they have Irv Smith Jr., but he's now out for the next 8 to 10 weeks. I understand they just acquired TJ Hawkinson. But another thing, too, is this. The Vikings had, for the last few years, Mike Zimmer as their head coach. Obviously, he's not their head coach anymore. They have this new regime in, who was the Rams offensive coordinator, I believe, last season during their Super Bowl win. So the Rams offensive game plan has completely changed. Their defense has completely changed. They have Patrick Peterson on their defense now, which is a big move for them. I think that one of the things that the Vikings, that the people don't talk about more is that Mike Zimmer getting fired by the Vikings might have been the best thing that could have happened to this franchise in the last few years. And that's because of the fact that now that they're 6-1, they have this whole new system in place that Kirk Cousins is thriving in. Kirk Cousins, of all the quarterbacks in the league, everybody's saying he's not worth this contract, he's not worth that money. He's playing like the quarterback that they signed him for. A Kirk Cousins-led team has never been this good before. And I think the Vikings, the fact that they're 6-1, it's kind of getting swept under the rug because people are thinking, well, when's it going to happen? When's it going to happen that the Vikings fall apart? When's it going to happen? This and that. Justin Jefferson, I get it as well. He hasn't had a receiving touchdown in a few weeks, but that's actually kind of okay still, which I think is a good thing. The fact that the Vikings are getting contributions from every single player on their team, it's big for them. And it's a huge contribution to their offense, and especially due in part to the fact that the Vikings are going to have the second seed right now in the NFC. If all things go according to plan still the rest of the way and they don't have a late season collapse, they're going to be the second seed. And that one loss to the Vikings, people are going to look at it and say, they have to play the Vikings again in the NFC Championship game, let's say. The Vikings are going to have a lot more, smell of blood and trying to get revenge on the Eagles, especially a few years ago when the Vikings lost to them in the NFC Championship game. So I think the Vikings, most underrated team in the NFL right now with a winning record. I think you definitely should look out for the Vikings. I think they're going to finish with about 12 wins just because of the way they're moving right now. I think they're going to finish with 12 victories. I think they're going to have the NFC North locked up just because they have a 2-3 game lead currently on that division. So I don't think the Packers are going to find themselves anytime soon. And I have to go with the Vikings. I think they're the most underrated team right now in football. And I don't know about Super Bowl contender. I still am very premature on saying that, but I think they're going to go as far as the NFC Championship game.
Okay. Zaria, the Vikings, 6-1. Kirk Cousins, he's playing fairly well. He's not playing too bad, right? Do you view this team as underrated or maybe too slept on? And well, you kind of already said it, right? You kind of said that this team is a threat to make some noise and the biggest threat to the Eagles. Tell me why you think that and why the Vikings are a big threat.
Okay. Well, for starters, as a Bears fan, this hurts me, but I'm
Absolutely.
I'm calling that Minnesota is going to the Super Bowl. And this might be
Wow.
early, but they have been so fun to watch just when the season has started. And I think it's more because, especially me, but I think a lot of people came into this season really doubting Minnesota just because this is their first year head coach. We don't really know him. Like, we know that he was the Rams offensive coordinator, like Philip said, but that's pretty much all we know. And I think everyone was coming in with like really low expectations. And especially with the preseason, I feel like everyone was just thinking that the Packers were just going to lock it up as they normally do. But Minnesota is really acting like the dark horse in the NFC, especially because I feel like they are 6-1 and everyone is just sweeping it under the rug because you still got the undefeated Eagles right now. But they are definitely, I feel like they are definitely Super Bowl ready. And I think it is going with giving Kevin O'Connell his credit. Going into the season, not a lot of people thought that he would have the type of season that he's currently having. And this man has proved time and time again that he deserves the respect that other coaches are getting, like Sean McVay. I feel like he is proving that he is on that level. Like, hey, just because I worked with him, that doesn't mean that I'm below him. That means that I am at his level, if not even better, like with my coaching. And I feel like, especially with Kirk Cousins, he has been playing amazing as of lately. And that has been very shocking to me. And I think the biggest factor with that was the game against the Dolphins when he rushed for that touchdown. I don't think anyone was really expecting that. I know I was kind of glued to the TV since then. I'm like, I actually cannot turn off this game because this Minnesota Vikings team is playing phenomenal. And I would have to disagree with Philip that I feel like Justin Jefferson and Dalvin Cook have shown that they do deserve the respect that they should get. But specifically, this new coach in Kevin O'Connell, I feel like we are just kind of disregarding all of his talents and accomplishments that he's done for this team. I think we're still acknowledging everything that he's done with the Rams, but not really moving forward with what he's done with Minnesota so far. So I definitely do think that they are the most underrated team, and we should be keeping an eye on them for a Super Bowl.
Okay, great breakdown, Zaria. Sansi, give me your take on this Vikings team. They're 6-1. I like them, but I don't know. I'm kind of in limbo with them. I don't know. I don't know about the Vikings. How do you feel about them, Sansi?
I mean, I think they're a pretty good team. I think they're really under the radar. Kevin O'Connell's done a really good job rebuilding the team, and I just don't think on offense, because everyone's like crediting the offense, but on defense, everyone's talking Patrick Peterson, but no one mentions they brought Darius Smith from the Packers. He's been doing a good job.
Great point.
They've got a good draft. They've built up a good team. I really like what they're doing. And you look at the schedule ahead. Yeah, they have some tough games against the Bills and the Cowboys, but everything else is winnable. They have a winnable season ahead of them. And if they can win a few more games, they can place themselves in the second seed. They can maybe even push for the first seed, depending on how the Eagles play. But I do think that this Vikings team is really good. They're playing Kirk Cousins to his strengths. They're not trying to make him do things that he is not comfortable with, and that's what's winning them games, playing to their strengths and kind of shadowing their weaknesses. And I think when you have such a dynamic offense where you don't focus on one guy, you can spread the ball around. You have Justin Jefferson, Adam Thielen, Irv Smith Jr., KJ Osborne. You have a good running back in Dalvin Cook, and you have Alexander Madison. You have such a dynamic offense. You have so many options that it allows you to spread the ball evenly. And when you have someone like Kevin O'Connell who knows how to kind of spread the ball around, I think that they're going to have a really successful season, and they're going to play to their strengths, and I think they're going to win multiple games down the road.
Sansi, you mentioned the Bills and the Cowboys. How do you think they stack up against the Bills and your Cowboys? Do you feel like they'll be really competitive in those games? Can they win those type of games?
I think they're going to keep it really close. I'm excited to see those games. I think that they're gonna come in with it's going to be with the Bills. It's going to be a type of shootout. And I think it'll come. The Bills defense has been playing really good, so it's going to see how they stack up against those types of defense. But I think we're going to see a kind of a shootout in between both offenses.
Okay, Candace, how do you view this Vikings team? 6-1, one of the best teams in the NFL. But it seems like nobody's saying Vikings Super Bowl. Vikings can contend with the best teams. I'm hearing a lot of 49ers. I'm hearing Eagles, Bills, Chiefs. Those are the teams I'm hearing. Even Cowboys. I'm hearing a lot of Cowboys. Well, we're always going to hear the Cowboys. But you get the point. Candace, how do you view this Vikings team?
I think they're the most slept on team in the league because to be 6-1 is pretty amazing. And I think what it is that people have just been blown away by Jalen Hurts' play style. So therefore, for him to be, I think he's 6 or 7-0 right now. A lot of people are just amazed in his glory. So they're sleeping on the Vikings. However, now if the Vikings can take and topple off the Bills next week, which is one of the biggest defensive stacked teams in the league, then I think people are going to wake up and say, oh, wait a minute, the Vikings are for real. But because this has been Kirk Cousins and he hasn't played this well in a very long time, I think people are just like, oh, well, that's just Kirk. He's going to mess up down the league and he may not make it to the Super Bowl or even to the first round. And so because of that, They are literally just completely slept on. But you can't sleep on a team that's number one in the NFC East. So with that being saying, I think Kirk Cousins is going to come out against the next couple of games and really going to put his foot to the metal to keep his team on top. And if he can do that, there may be some trouble in the NFC, and we might see Kirk Cousins in the playoffs this year. I'm thinking Kirk Cousins can at least take his team to the second round of the playoffs. However, that's just me. But I think that Kirk is being slept on, and so let him keep on sleeping on you, Kirk. They'll wake up soon enough when it's time.
Absolutely, absolutely. They're going to want to see Kirk win those big games in prime time. But again, I keep mentioning, I can't wait for games. We're going to see. We saw what happened against the Eagles. It didn't look good. But we're going to see those big boy games. Bills, Cowboys. I'm ready for those. We'll